everybody, I'm Adrianne from Ageless with Adrianne. Today I want to talk to you about your mental health. I often have active agers come and say, I'm concerned about losing my memories, I'm having senior moments. I'm sure you've heard the term senior moments. When they're forgetting something, they're forgetting a name. There is a normal level of cognitive decline that happens as we get older. But today I want to present you with some things that can help slow down some of that cognitive decline. I want to show you some different activities or talk to you about different activities and show you a couple things that you can do that will help to stimulate your brain, perhaps create some new pathways, and get the blood flowing in different ways to your brain to keep those memories alive and fresh. I don't want you to lose your memories. So one of the things that you can do, and I'm sure many of you are already doing this, are crossword puzzles and word games. The one thing I will tell you about this is the longer you do them, the more your brain will adapt to them. So I sometimes have people say to me, well, I do crossword puzzles. And I think that's great. I do Wordle every day. I love it, it makes me happy. But it doesn't mean that it's stimulating new growth cells or new growth pathways, I should say, in the brain. So when you do something that's new for the first time and it's challenging, that's when your brain starts working a little bit differently. So I have some suggestions for you. One of the things that you could possibly do is learn a new language. And I know some of you are saying, but I'm 85, I don't want to learn a new language. But if you challenge yourself a little bit, and it might be difficult. I started taking Italian almost a year ago. It's difficult for me. I don't always like it because it's difficult for me, but I'm going to continue with it to challenge my brain, to force my brain to work differently. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do, most of us are creatures of habit, and we tend to do the same thing every day. So we get up, we have our coffee, we hopefully are stretching and doing some physical activity. But when you go out driving or for a walk, do you always take the same route? I bet most of you do. One of the ways that you can challenge your brain is to take a different route. And it will just make your brain start to think about things a little bit differently. You'll see things differently, like visually, and you might have to think about, which way am I going? Where am I going? Instead of being this automatic, I just go this way, now I go this way. Have you ever been going someplace and you find yourself, you have a destination, but you find yourself turning down a road that you always go down, and because your brain is just taking you on the path that you always go? Maybe it's just me that this has happened to, but sometimes I'm going in one direction to go someplace completely different that I've ever gone, and I'm not thinking, because you can turn your brain off, if you will, and kind of think about other things when you drive the same way every day or you walk the same path every day. And so if I have the destination over here that I've never been to, sometimes I find myself going in this direction because this is the way I always go, because I've stopped focusing or having to think about where I'm going. Has it ever happened to you? So that's another thing. One day, and you can try to do this too, my husband rearranged the apps on my phone, like the folders where all my apps are on my phone. If you have a smartphone, you probably have folders, you have apps, and I didn't have to even think about where to go in my app to look for my email or to pick up a voicemail. Like, I knew where everything was without even thinking about it. My thumb would just automatically go. Well, one day he rearranged my apps, and it was a little frustrating, but my brain had to think about things. What we want is, we don't want that autopilot on with your brain. So these are like some different things. Try brushing your teeth with the opposite hand instead of the one you always use. These are just some very simple ways that you can start to change how your brain is functioning instead of having it on autopilot. The best way to keep that brain functioning and to create new synapses and blood flow is, of course, exercise, right? We know that exercise is the #1 thing to help with cognitive decline. Within that exercise, I would recommend that you dual task. Dual task it's different from multitasking, because I know they always say women can multitask, they can do 10 things at a time. That's not always the best thing either. But dual tasking, doing 2 things at the same time. So for instance, if you were doing, in your workout, if you were doing standing jacks, how about you try counting backwards from 100 by 3s? 97, 94, 91, 88. And you keep going. You can do stuff like that. You can do math problems in your head, and you can. It doesn't have to be complicated necessarily, but make it complicated enough to maybe you have to stop and think. Maybe you don't know the answer right away. 44 times 2, 88. 66 minus 3, 63. So stuff where you have to just pull numbers out and start to dual task. For me, as I'm learning Italian, sometimes I conjugate my verbs when I am doing my physical activity. So if I'm lifting weights, I will have a verb in my head. I'll look at my notes, have a verb, and I'll do the conjugation while I'm lifting weights, while I'm moving. This is dual tasking. This is forcing your brain to step outside of that comfort zone, to step outside of, we already know what to do. This is the path we always walk on. This is the way we always make our coffee. This is the coffee shop we always go to. I want to challenge you to keep this brain fresh and do things differently. So when you're going about your day, look at what you're doing each day. Look at how things are for you. Do you do the same thing every day? What can you do differently to challenge that brain? And again, of course, my greatest recommendation for you is exercise. If you don't know what to do with exercises, I have a number of videos that you can watch that will help you. But this is the greatest way to keep that brain fresh and to stop that cognitive decline, to slow it down. Cognitive decline, I shouldn't say stop because we can't fully stop it, but we sure can slow it down. We sure can take action to try to slow things and make it not so quick. The more sedentary you are, the more you stick to your routine, the more you don't change things, the easier it is for that brain to stop having to work because you're on autopilot. So what I recommend today, as you're listening to this, try something new. Change the apps on your phone, switch them all around so you don't know where they are. When you're going for your walk today, I want you to walk a different path. Try something different and keep your eyes up when you're walking. Look around, see the newness when you walk on a different path. I hope this was helpful for you. I gave you some great suggestions here to try to keep things moving in that brain so that they don't become stagnant. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below and be sure to follow my page. Thank you.